I wish I was going to talk to you about being a rock star. That's what I wanted to be. You know, I grew up in the Joan Jett era, so big hair, lots of rock and roll in the 80s. So, all right, here we go. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here today to talk with you about one of my favorite topics, the art of self-care. And Matt kind of set me up pretty well, I think. He might have covered a few of the things I'm going to cover, so hopefully it won't be too redundant for you. But I am Mary Shackelford, and I'm the founder and owner of Mary Shackelford Wellness Solutions, where I serve as a personal health coach and a wellness consultant for businesses and organizations. And it's my mission to create a passion for health and well-being in people all over the world. So I'm excited about that Google Plus thing, because I can do the over the whole world part pretty easy maybe. So the truth is, in the society that we live in today, that seems really loud. Is it just me? I'm going to put it down here a little bit. Is that we are living in a society today where we are on the go all the time. We are striving and we are encouraged to work harder, to do more, to have more, and quite frankly, to be more. It's just this constant mantra within our society. And in fact, we're also taught that we should all be serving others and caring well for everyone and everything in our life, right? We care well for our children, our parents, our coworkers, our friends, even our houses and our lawns and our cars and all of these things. Really important, right? But I ask you this one question, and I think it's important that we do that. But where are we in the picture? Where do we rate in the priorities of all of these things that are important to us and that we do? And often, we're not there. And so self-care is one of the things I'm going to talk with you about today, and about how we need to kind of put ourselves back in this picture of all the things that are important to us. And I want to tell you just a minute about my story. I can't go into very much of it because I have such a short time today. But seemingly, a few years ago, I had it all. This is my family. I have a beautiful family, I'm happy to say. I had a big job and a big salary and a nice corner office, traveled around the country doing lots of work, had, seemingly this great package of life going on. And then one day, in an instant, literally, everything changed for me. Everything changed. Prior to this moment, I thought I was handling all of this just perfectly. I felt like being overwhelmed and exhausted and worn out was just part of life. And then that moment happened, and I literally went from feeling like I was managing everything okay to a complete state of panic. And I mean that literally. I started having panic attacks about 7 years ago. And when that happened to me, I realized that this journey that I had been on, that I had to make some changes, and I had to make some changes in my life really fast. This is not a fun place to be. And it wasn't a fun place to be on a daily basis, which was what I was experiencing. So what I had come to realize in this journey was that I had spent the better part of 4 decades always looking out for everyone and everything else except for me. I put the basic needs of myself, I'm talking sleep, nutrition, exercise, basic human needs that we must have, I put those secondary to whatever was going on, whether it be my family, my job, community, whatever it was. So I want to ask you if that's what you're doing. Do you put all of the needs of all the other people and all the things in your life ahead of you? Ahead of your own basic needs? And this goes along with what Matt was talking about. Stress is one of the biggest culprits that we have in our life. And when we are under a lot of stress, it causes illness, and it causes unhappiness. And it can lead to really some major things happening in our life. We're unproductive, as he alluded to. Our brain doesn't work as well. We can't even get as much done when we're under this stress. And this is that fight or flight response that he talked a little bit about. And it's a good thing. We have to have it. We want this for when we're in physical danger. But most of us are not in physical danger on a daily basis. We're under mental and emotional pressures and stress constantly. And so we have got to start doing something to start coming down from that in order to keep ourselves from getting burned out, from getting sick, and really, quite frankly, from living a life that isn't very happy. Because this is how we end up. Does any of these faces look familiar? You know, we're upset, we're tired, we're exhausted, we're worn out, and then we also end up with physical symptoms. For me, it was panic attacks. For somebody else, it could be high blood pressure. It could be cancer. It could be autoimmune disease. It could be a host of things that stress contributes to or makes worse if we don't start to mitigate it a little bit. So I like to use the analogy of your car. How many of you drove in a car to come here today? Most of us. So if you went to get in your car this morning and it didn't have any gas in it, where would you be right now? Sitting at home. Or you would have called somebody, get somebody to come over and give you a ride. But your car wasn't going to go anywhere, right? Your car is not going to go down the road if you don't put gas in it. Most of us don't ever argue with that. We might not like it when we go to pay for it, but we don't argue with the concept that our gas has to be refueled. Well, you know what? The truth is we, as human beings, are no different than a car. We have to have fuel in order to keep going, in order to keep doing all the things in our life that we want, the things that are important to us, being with our family, doing a good job at our work, volunteering in our community. And so we have to stop and put some fuel back in. And the truth is that our circle of influence is impacted by how much fuel we have in this tank. And we have ripple effects. So by filling ourselves up, making sure we're full, refueling, replenishing, we actually have a beautiful ripple effect out to the community, our friends, our family, and quite frankly, the whole world. If we collectively can do that and take care of ourselves, we have a huge impact in the world by being at this state of taking care of ourselves. I call this living self-full. And it's very important that we start looking at it from this perspective. I want to ask a question. How many of you, what is the reason most of you don't take the time to do stuff for yourself, to take care of yourself? Whether that be get a good night's sleep, eat a healthy meal, take a break, just go watch a movie that you want to watch. What's the reasons? Somebody tell me some reasons why you don't do that. Time. Guilt. So if you don't do it because of time, why? If you're choosing to spend your time one way or the other and you choose to spend it on yourself, what do you feel? Guilty. Or selfishness. I hear that from women a lot, and some men as well, that the two reasons are guilt and selfishness. Oops, sorry. So I want to talk about those two concepts a little bit. So selfishness is something that you do when you only care about yourself, and you really don't care what happens to anybody else. You just want what you want, right? It comes from this negative place. It's sort of draining, and it's taking. Whereas being self-full comes from this place of being filled up, being energetic, being ready and excited for what you're doing. These are two very different things, right? Very different approaches to the same concept of taking care of yourself. So when we come at anything that we want to do from a place of being self-full, we're going to do it better. We are going to be better mothers and fathers. We're going to be better spouses and partners. We're going to be better employees and employers. We're going to be better community involved people. Everything we do is going to be better if we come from a full tank as opposed to running on fumes, which most of us are doing. So self-care. What does it look like? This is a pretty good picture to me of what self-care looks like. Nice, hot bathtub, a little wine or champagne, it looks like. Sounds pretty good, right? The truth is self-care can be lots of things, and we need to think about our physical body, the fuel that we're putting in, the food that we're eating. We need to think about rest. We talked about that. Rest is rejuvenating. It's when our body actually repairs and rejuvenates. And we need to think about our mental and spiritual selves as well. So those are all things that we want to think about with self-care. So I'm not here to tell you exactly what your self-care should look like, but I do have a couple ideas for you. And they can be a range of things. So it can be taking that nice hot bath. It can also be getting some good exercise, some physical exercise. Physical exercise actually expends those fight or flight hormones when we're stressed out. That's why exercise is good for stress. We want to do that. Walking in nature, reading a book, ending an unhealthy relationship, whether that be a friend, a business relationship, a more intimate relationship, whatever that is. These are all methods of self-care. So just take a look at those. You're going to have your own list of things that make you feel good, that make you rejuvenated. And those are really important things for you to include in your life. Now, what's important is that whatever you're choosing makes you feel good, makes you feel rejuvenated. And it's about you. It's not about what somebody else says. Oh, you should do that because you'll feel better. They may be right, but if it doesn't make you feel better, then fix something else that makes you feel better. And it needs to be something you do every day. Now, I know Matt talked about the 24-hour thing. I think that's great, especially detaching from technology. But really, you need to do something every day to renew and refuel. Because you can't wait a whole week and then try to get it all in on Saturday. Because your body is just going to be too worn out, too depleted, right? And consistency is important. Because you're going to feel a little better when you initially do it, but the longer you do self-care, the more consistent you are with certain behaviors, whether it be exercise, eating healthy, learning to say no when it's appropriate, whatever that might be, you're going to feel those benefits even more. So one of the things that I like to teach people to do is breathe. And everybody laughs at me when I say that because they're like, oh, we kind of are. And I'm like, yes, you are, but I want to teach you to breathe healthy. So what I'd like to ask each of you to do is take one hand up on your chest and one on your belly, below your belly button. And you don't have to do anything different. I just want you to breathe for a minute. And I want you to notice which of your hands is rising first. Somebody shout out. The top one. That's because most of us are breathing pretty shallow. So our chest rises first. And that's actually a sign that you are in low-level stress response, because your body is breathing shallow up at your chest. So what we want to do is get that breath to come down to our belly and have your belly push out. Now, I know, ladies, we don't like that. It doesn't. But for this instance, we're going to enjoy letting our belly pooch out. So we're just going to take a couple breaths together. So when I say inhale, I want you to have that lower hand push out. Inhale, in. And then exhale. And it just gently goes back. We're going to do that again. Inhale in and exhale. Now I just want you to do that a couple times at your own pace, just a couple breaths. Just having that lower belly push out. One more. Now I have to ask, does anybody not feel better? I feel better. I feel better. Up here walking, you get a little excited. So this is just one self-care thing you can do for yourself any moment of the day. Take a nice, good, deep breath before you walk into that serious meeting. Take it after you get out. Take some breaths during your meeting. Take some breaths before you go to... If you're having trouble sleeping, just lay with your hand on your belly and focus on your belly breath, and you're going to bring that stress response down. It signals to your brain, I'm safe. I'm okay. I don't need adrenaline and cortisol anymore running through my veins. I can slow down. So just doing that one thing every day is going to make a difference for you, I promise, especially with some consistency. Now, what I want you to do now is I want you just to get into your imaginary state for a moment. I want you to get creative, and I want you to begin to imagine your life if you come to everything that you are doing, everything that's important to you in your life, from a place of feeling full. From this place of being self-full. What is possible? What is possible for you if you come with this energy, this vitality, this excitement about life to everything you're doing? Just really imagine. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine your most deepest, intimate relationship that you have. And I want you to think about that relationship and what is possible within that relationship if you come to that relationship from a place of energy and fullness, from a place of passion and excitement, because you're rested and you're well-fed and you've taken care of yourself. Just really picture that and feel that. Feel how exciting that is. Now think about your work. Think about what's possible for you in your work life if you come to your job, to your career, with this feeling of being full, with a passion for what you're doing, with energy, with vibrance. What could you accomplish? What could you accomplish? And what ripple effect in all of those situations, whether it be your work, your family, your friends, your community, might you give off if you come to it from this place of fullness every day, from this place of having taken care of yourself first, for 1 minute a day, or 5 minutes a day that you took to take care of yourself first? What can you do? What impact might you really have? And that just excites me when I think about the fact that each one of us took a few minutes every day just to fill ourselves up, the amazing things that can happen in Jefferson City, that can happen in this world, that can happen within our own families, because we are full. Right? We are full. So I want you to imagine those possibilities, and I want you to do one thing now. I want you to commit to one self-care activity that you can do starting today. Just one thing. And I want you to find a piece of paper, and I want you to write it down. What are you going to do starting today to take care of yourself first, so that you have more to give to everybody else and everything that's important to you? Find that one thing. It can be one simple 1-minute thing. And lastly, I want to close with a couple of my favorite quotes. How many of you consider yourself a compassionate person? I do. So I love this quote because we often have compassion for lots of other people. You know, it's easy sometimes to have compassion for someone else. But I love this quote because it says, if your compassion does not include yourself, it's incomplete. So we need to have some self-compassion as well. And lastly, my very favorite quote when it comes to self-care is this: self-care is never selfish. It is simply good stewardship of the gifts been given. Now, I know this room is full of people with lots of gifts to give. This is a dynamic group of leaders that has a lot to give. But if you do not take care of yourself first, you're not going to be able to be as effective and give as much as you would otherwise be able to. So I'm inviting each of you today to step up and to start living your own self-full life. Thank you very much.